Grade 9, we finished the analyst stage. We go now into the design stage. Okay, this is where you create the design of the product that you're going to make for the company. This is the most important stage. Any mistake in the design stage will lead you to come all the way back when you've done your evaluation stage to come and fix the design. So this is the stage that you really have to concentrate on to make sure that the product you give to the client is going to work perfectly. Okay, so today we're going to look at the lesson objectives. Okay, to investigate the design stage, requirements are: research the requirements of a form and critique an existing form. Okay, and we're going to explain validation and verification rules using examples. Okay, so the design stage, the first thing you really have to concentrate on is the inputs, the processing, and the outputs. Okay, so the first thing you have to do is design the system inputs. In your starter, we ask you to investigate certain inputs that you could use to input data into a web page. How to design on-screen forms. So these are the steps you need to know: the system inputs, design an on-screen form, data validation techniques, data verification techniques, designing the system processes, design how the data will be processed, and then the outputs and on-screen reports, and designing printed reports. So to get the data into the system is a two-part process. We first got to capture the data using different techniques such as barcode readers. If you're going to put merchandise onto your web page, you could use cameras to take photos of your front of the business, the signage, how the inside of the business looks, maybe a factory, people that work there. You'll take photos, or you could even use a microphone to capture sound as well. Then the data must be put into the computer. Okay, so when we're finished with that, you're going to design the system inputs. Okay, so paper-based form, you can see an example of it on the right. And you're applying for your CPR identity card, you got to fill in all the things by pen. Okay, this is a simple form that someone designed to get the relevant data into the system. Now remember, when you critique a form, there must not be too much white space. White space means this outline area here where there's nothing on it. Sometimes the form is only this big and all this is just wasted space. There must be no wasted space. Another way to critique this form is all the font sizes the same. Is there enough space to enter the data? Is there tick boxes where you minimize spelling mistakes? Is there a list that you can just go and choose on, or circle or something? That's how you critique a paper-based or a web-based form. Okay, ticks boxes, list boxes, buttons where you can just click into. Those are all things that you need on a form. The reason why you use those things are minimize spelling mistakes. Okay, barcode readers, OMR forms, machine readable, all different kind of input methods. Card readers, so you've got your CPR, you can swipe that information on the card reader, the barcode, and it'll take that information and put it on your website. Electronic fund transfer, point of sale, different inputs, cameras, we all spoke about the different inputs. There's your on-screen form. The other one was paper-based. This is on-screen. So if you critique this, you can say all the font sizes are nice. There's subheadings as well. The text, you know which is heading. There's a difference between font sizes between headings and the text. Date, they could have had a pull-down menu. You can critique it. Why didn't they have a pull-down menu where you can just go and click on what is required? Yeah, they could have had buttons where you could just click in Mr., Mrs., other. With buttons, you save in time and you minimize in errors. Okay, email, obviously you have to put that yourself because everyone's got different emails. Okay, see, like these buttons, these radio buttons, they could have used it for the title, Mr., Mrs., or others, and you just had to click into that. Okay, so this as well, although they have got a date, a calendar here where you got to go and choose from, so that's kind of cool. And then they've got a place where you can put your comments in. There's a submit button here. What you can also critique here is there's no help button or back button or forward button. Suddenly you made a mistake and you want to go back one page, there's no back button, there's no forward button, there's no frequently asked questions or some sort of a help button. That's how you critique this. Okay, here it tells you on-screen forms should have all the necessary fields, have obvious places for user input, okay, use appropriate controls, have tick boxes, easy to understand instructions if needed. This one hasn't got. Okay, a good use of the screen area available. Okay, so they are using a good area. There's quite a lot of white space, but it's fine because it fits in there. So that's how you critique that. So there's a radio button, see there, they could have done that for the Mr. and Mrs. There's the submit, perform action, text, tick boxes where you can tick, drop down menus. All of this is used to save time and minimize spelling mistakes. So as data is entered in the form, it needs to be checked for accuracy. Two techniques help us to do this: validation and verification. You're going to have questions on validation and verification constantly. Okay. System process, file structure, designing how the data will be processed. Okay, so you're designing data and file structures, designing how the data will be processed in there. So if you're designing the database, these are the things that you're gonna need to consider: the type of data be stored, the size of the data, the field names, how many records. We did this in databases. Okay, the designer also needs to consider which back storage devices. Okay, in other words, how often will you want to make backups, how quickly you need to get all of the backup files if you need it, how large will the data files be. So you've got different methods of backing up data: cloud storage, tape, external, internal hard disks, floppy disks, USBs, all those different methods. If you're a business, you're going to go to the bigger type storage, so cloud storage, tape, and external hard drives. System designer also needs to design the actual steps to be followed in processing the data. Okay, the data flow diagram. Remember, we did this in the analysis stage, and you can just read about it there. That's an example of it. Okay, printed report, you can read about that. You all know what a printed report should look like. You need to read this, find it out. I'm not going to explain it, you can read it. Okay, so data validation, I told you this is very important. Data validation is that the computer is going to check to see if the data is sensible. Okay, validation does not check if the data is correct. They might ask you for your birth date, and your birth date is the 1st of January 1989, and you write the 1st of January 1899. It's correct because it's a date. It's not going to be able to check that that's your birth date. It's just going to check, okay, is the date written correctly? Yes, it is. Okay, fine. Okay, it can't check to see if the date that you've put down is your actual date. There are different types of validation checks. Okay, presence check. That means, is there something, have you written something in the box? If it's left blank, when you click the submit button, it's going to tell you to go back to that box and fill in data. Range check. That's within a certain range. People can only be 0 years old because they haven't been born, and most people live till about 100. So they say it'll be like a range between 0 and 120 if they're asking for your age. If you put 231, it's going to say sorry, it doesn't fall within the range. Exam marks can be 0% up to 100%. That's a range. Length check. Is an item of text too short or too long? If you've got to put certain words in and it's too short, like your password must be 8 characters. If you only put a 7-character password in, it's going to say your password is too short. It must be 8 characters or longer. Okay, and type check means that column will either have numbers in it or alphabet. If you go and put numbers in an alphabet, then it'll say, sorry, this only requires alphabet, does not require numbers. Format checks, normally a date. Okay, so these are the different type of validation checks. It's important. It will be an exam question. Okay, this year you must do the exercise at the end of the lesson. I'll post it for you. So remember we said validation only checks if the data is sensible, not if it's the right data. Okay, check that the data is correct value. We use a system called data verification. Okay, there are 2 methods of data verification. Visual check. So what you've typed in, you take your piece of paper where the information was on, you read the paper and you look at your screen and see if the 2 match. If there are any errors, you will fix it. Double entry is when 2 people sitting at 2 different computers with the same data that they're going to enter into the computer. The minute somebody makes a mistake, the mistake will pop up and they'll say, oops, I've made a mistake, and the other person will say, yes, your mistake is that. Okay, so data is entered into the computer twice by 2 different people. The computer compares the 2 sets of data to see if they match. Double entry takes more time and effort, but it catches almost every mistake. Okay, so that is the design stage. You study it and make sure that you understand what the